Hello, Bat fans, and may I say, happy birthday, Batman. We're now talking about 75 years of dressing up in tights and beating the crap out of people instead of getting psychological help. This is Batman Anniversary Week, where I will be talking about some Batman entries that I've never talked about on this channel. I may have mentioned them here and there, may have mentioned them on other people's videos, but this time I'm actually going to be doing some reviews. Whew, that's the explanation. Now, the present is for you, even though it's Batman's birthday. And what are we reviewing today? We are reviewing Frank Miller's Year One, with art by David Mazzucchelli. And I love this book. That's kind of a spoiler for the rest of the review, I guess. This is back when DC only rebooted their titles every generation or so. And this is what they did with Batman. They went to Frank Miller, they of course went to John Byrne to deal with Superman, George Perez to deal with Wonder Woman, and some other jokers to take those other characters. And they went to Frank Miller to do Year One. Now, what is Year One? For those of you who haven't even read it, you kids out there. Year One is essentially just that. It's the first year of Batman, where he wasn't perfect. He had all this training. He still hadn't really figured out what he was doing, and he hadn't made his connections yet in Gotham City. And this is a year of watching him train and become the Batman, or at least on the way of becoming the Batman we know. And what's interesting, what's unusual about this miniseries, or story I should say, is that it's seen mostly through the eyes of Jim Gordon, who is coming into Gotham, transferring from Chicago because Gotham was just a better paying job. He had a wife with a baby on the way, so he felt the pressure, the financial pressure and the burden to move and take his family to hopefully a better life, but frankly, moving into town, he feels like he's coming into hell. And it's interesting that the first couple of pages parallels his entry into Gotham City by train and Bruce Wayne's entry into Gotham for the first time in years, because he's been training abroad, by private jet. And that's what's interesting. Yeah, we get a lot of Bruce's activity and training and kind of learning on the job, but a lot of it is seen through the eyes of Gordon. And Gordon, up until the 80s, was basically a smarter mayor from Townsville. He was essentially the guy who said, hey, Batman, I need you to do this thing, because none of our cops can really get a guy dressed up in a Joker outfit. But this is where things really changed. He really grounded the character. Essentially, what Jim Gordon goes through in this is he is a cop who comes across this remarkably corrupt system that Gotham is. It's all tied together. The Falcone mob, the police, the politicians, it's all corrupted. And he feels like a minority in this world. He is charged with bringing this crazy guy who's beating the crap out of criminals, the Batman. And the Batman starts ruffling feathers when he starts messing with the connections, the Falcone connections, and messing with the corrupt cops. That's when they start getting serious about taking him down. And he's put in charge of doing it. Essentially, though, he realizes that this one guy who's a criminal is actually more moral than all the people I'm working for. And we watch Jim's values get tested through this series, as well as the simple hero's journey that Batman goes through, as he kind of goes through trial and error, where he is slightly sloppy, but he just gets better and better throughout this storyline. We also meet Catwoman for the first time, who is the only real other kind of hero or villain that he runs across. It's mostly a crime story. And during this time, Frank Miller does also some real-world commentary. Like the Gotham PD drops a bomb on a slum that Batman is hiding out. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but the Philadelphia PD did that once. And that's what Frank Miller is talking about here. And let's see, one of my favorite speeches here is when shit goes down here. This is where things get serious, where Falcone throws this party and politicians are there, the police commissioner is there, all the city's most valuable people here, who are all tied together in crime, are here, and he blows out the wall and gives a very short speech, but it's very effective, and it's one I've always remembered. Ladies and gentlemen, you've eaten well. You've eaten Gotham's wealth, its spirit. Your feast is nearly over. From this moment on, none of you are safe. That is some really tight writing, and it's a Frank Miller I miss, and it's a Frank Miller I don't see anymore. This is not the Frank Miller of the Occupy Wall Street Frank Miller. This is a Frank Miller who has his vision tight, and it is really kind of putting his finger on what is really wrong with the corrupt authority and where it is really hurting us. And this was Frank Miller's setup. Now, setup is probably the most appropriate word, because some people will criticize this book as far as not being a hugely tight story, but what Miller was doing was what he was asked: set up the new Batman status quo, and he does very efficiently. He leaves enough to start building, and he leaves enough to really get you excited. This is him taking down, this is him taking out the police commissioner who's corrupt, and it's the beginning of Catwoman. You can definitely see through the story is Batman's very existence plants a lot of seeds, and of course they all grew to, well, I'm sure beautiful trees. I don't know, maybe not, but it depends how you look at it. If you have not read this, I highly recommend it. I believe this story has recently been nudged out of continuity, where it had been just fine for over 20-some years, but now it is not continuity. But to be honest, as far as I'm concerned, this is the Batman comic book orange. Or comic book orange. It's the comic book orange. This is the Batman comic book origin, excuse me. And I highly recommend it. 5 stars. I'm pretty sure you can still find it. It's still in print, I believe, at least until 0 Year gets traded up. Push the button, Lindsay.